If you do make a mistake in your brioche, we have discussed before about how sometimes it's quite difficult to pull this back and to get back to where you were before, which is why lifelines are very important. But if you are going to try and go back to correct a mistake, one thing you can do is always tink it back, tinking, knitting backwards. And sometimes I can do this for 3 or 4 rows because it's probably the only way I'm going to be sure of getting all the stitches correct. But this is how you would tink back on brioche. Just be clear that you understand what you're looking for. But here we've had a brioche knit, so we're going to insert our needle into the stitch below and slide the knitted stitch off the needle, and you see it comes free. The next one, of course, will be a slip stitch. So now we're just going to slip that off, and then again, this is a brioche knit stitch, so we put our needle into the stitch below and just let it slide out. That's a slip stitch. And so we go on. If you've got any increases or decreases, the increases are very easy to tink back. But the decreases, you will have to reverse the stitch. So whether it's a right decrease or a left decrease, try and remember what you did and just reverse the steps, lifting every stitch off carefully. Horror of horrors, we have dropped a stitch. This is every brioche knitter's nightmare. But we're going to recover it. We can pull this back. First thing to do, make your stitch secure. And this is why I like to work with some of these little handy safety pin style stitch markers present, because you can always make a stitch secure. And that is really the first thing to do. That's first aid for our knitting. Having done that, we can have a little look and see what we've got to do. Now, if you've ever picked up a knit stitch with a crochet hook before, that's what we're going to do now. But of course, we have to remember that we've got these wraps going on. So the blue ones are the wraps and the yellow one is the working thread. So as we look here, this is the stitch here, and this was its wrap. And then this next one up here, although it's one above, this would have been the working yarn that we were using. So I always suggest that you only try and do this on a knitted rib, and that may mean that you just need to turn over and work off the back sometimes, but always work off a knitted rib. And if your work, it goes over an increase or a decrease, i.e. it's run down further, so had it gone past this increase here, then you're into a bit of trouble, because that's really very hard to pick up again. So this is the point at which you would hope that you've got a lifeline in, but you're probably looking at going back to another lifeline. However, if it's just come down a few stitches on the main rib, we can recover this. So having made our stitch secure, the next thing I'm going to do is put a crochet hook through it, and then I can take out my stitch marker. Love these things. They're so good. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to look, this is the wrap of that stitch, and that is the next working yarn. So I've taken the next contrast colour and the next main colour stitches. And so this one is going to form the new stitch, and it needs to come through the two, both the contrast colour and the main colour stitch. And that has made one more stitch there. Let's pull one back. So now we do that again. So we're going to go under the contrast colour and pick up the working yarn in the main colour, and we're just going to pull that through and make a new stitch there. And then this is the wrap for this current stitch. So what we're going to do, we'll put that back on the needle first. That goes that way, front to back. And then this goes on. Sorry, actually I should have do the main stitch first. Oops. And then pick that up and put it on front to back. And that has recovered it, and that's ready to be worked now.